Erev Tov. So we're in Mesillas Perek Yud Gimel, and it's called Bever Midas Aprecious, the attribute of abstinence. There's a new rung in the ladder, and this is already the fourth rung. We had Zerus, Risus, and Nikios. Zerus meant being careful, watchful. Zerisus meant being alacritous, and Nikios meant cleanliness, which meant faultlessness. And besides us being another rung, the fourth rung, precious, which means abstinence, but it's really a whole different series. The first three are considered one series, and now comes a second series. The Mesillas himself is going to say that this is a new category, as he's going to start off right away. Some people divide the Sefer into three levels. The first three is one series, and then precious, Tara, Chasidus is the second, and then the third three, Anavi, Yeruschet, and Kedusha, might be considered a third level. But this, the Mesillas himself says that this is a big demarcation of a new series. Everything we spoke about till now, even though it got more and more fine-tuned, but it was all about Isurim Mamash, actual prohibitions. When we say prohibitions, we don't only mean Isurim, Alavim, something that the Torah says a negative commandment, also includes the Bad Midos, as we saw the whole time, that the Sefer includes the correction of Bad Midos just as much as Isurim. And the whole Sefer was always aligned two halves, it always went simultaneously. There were two aligned issues, one is Isurim and one is Midos. But everything was considered actually Asr till now. Until now, everything was considered actually prohibition, Asr, no chumras. Nothing was beyond the letter of the law. And now it's going to start issue of going beyond the letter of the law. That means that even the kiyos, which is a very, very fine-tuning, a person fine-tuning his character and getting rid of every fault, and he shouldn't, as he says in Perek Yud, that the kiyos would include that he has no isser, no chet, and no midah. But after everything, it was still an aver mamish. He might have been justifying himself, and he had to work on himself very much in order to come to the level that he shouldn't be biased and justify something which is unjustifiable. But after everything, it was mamish and isser. So everything till now is all isurim mamish, actual prohibitions and bad midos, like the pasuk talks about gaiva, that it's a to'eva, it's an abomination. The bad midos are all ros b'ashman, ros b'tol b'seyan. But we didn't do anything yet which is beyond the letter of the law. We didn't ask anybody, didn't ask anybody to do something that's considered a chumrah, a stringency beyond the letter of the law. And this is the first rung where we're going past the letter of the law. And he's going to explain why is there room for that. Why is there room and what's the necessity to be more stringent than the Torah says. The Torah says it's mutter. So far, everything that's prohibited, a person is staying away, and everything that's permitted, a person is doing. At this point, when a person is a naki, that's where he'd be holding, that he would be doing nothing that's prohibited, both in a isser, in actual action, and also in a bad character trait. But he's a perfect. He's already, l'chorah is considered already a perfect human being. It's hard to even imagine what could be better. A person that doesn't have any chait and no midah, he's doing all the mitzvahs, he's not doing any averis, his character is perfected. What could be more than that? And he says right away that's going to be considered a tzaddik. At this point, when a person comes to the end of Nikios, he's labeled a tzaddik. Now he's going to say there's something that's even beyond the tzaddik also. So that's his opening statement. Aprecious hitchilos achasidos. Precious, which the word means abstinence, to stay away. It sounds like a gory kind of title. Abstinence, people have one connotation: staying away, refraining, staying away from good times, and that is going to change. As we go on to the parak more and more, we'll see that it's a very happy thing, and the person who's holding there is only doing it when he's very excited about it, not when he's feels any bad feelings about it. So we'll see that it's not going to be a gory kind of the way the goyim think of precious, the person who abstains. But the word precious literally means abstinence, to abstain, refrain. And he says that's the beginning of Chasidus. And he makes a new category called Chasidus. Chasidus means piety. Nowadays, when a person says Chasidus, so he's referring to a certain group that, in contrast to Misnagdim, Chasidus, that the group they call themselves Chasidim. But that's not the Chasidus that the Mesillas is talking about. He's talking about when Chazal calls something a Chasid. And whenever we say the word Chasidus, now we're going to be talking in this terminology. We're not talking about what today's Chasidus means, and that could be a different discussion. What do they say? What does the Chasidus say nowadays? Is there something new? Is there something that's just just labeled the new name, was an old thing. Then a different discussion. But this discussion is all going to be about what Chassidus is in Chazal. So he says that Pishus is the first step of Chassidus. The Tira, Shekol Ma Shebeyanu Adate Hu Ma Shemitzarech Al Adam L'Sheyeh Tzadik Umikan Lahola Hu L'Sheyeh Chassid. Everything we discussed until now, the first 12 chapters, which are the first 3 rungs, about Zehirus, Zerizus, and the Kiyos, all that's what's necessary to become a Tzadik. And from here on, we're talking about what's necessary to become a Chassid. So this is a real demarcation in the Sefer. Ad Kan Tzadik, Nihan Kan Lahola is Chassid. And he's going to explain as we go on that it's not for everybody. Not everybody's expected to do it. Not everybody can do it. And some people are going to be doing it. We'll tell them, you're on the wrong track. Go back to the tzaddik track. But there's something that's called Chassidus, and we'll see what it is, what it includes, and why it's necessary for those who could do it, and why it shouldn't be done by those who cannot do it. We might say that people might ask that why are we going further? First, let's make sure that we're holding over here, and there's no purpose in going further in the Sefer. Many people, they're scared to continue the Sefer from this point on because they say, am I a tzaddik? Am I already righteous that I should be going on to Chassidus? And some people even stop earlier and they say after Zehirus, am I a Zohir that I should go on to Zerizus? And they don't want to go further until they have acquired completely the level that they're up to. But the Sefer himself, the Mechaber, the author himself says not to do that. The author himself says in the beginning, in the opening Hakdam, in the preface, he says that the Sefer is written in a way that it should be constantly read and reviewed. And he says that the benefit you get from the Sefer is not a one-time reading, but it's to be constantly reviewed from the beginning to end. So the question comes back, why does he want us to read it that way? If we're not holding there, so what's the purpose of going on further? So there are a few answers to the question that I've come across. One answer would be that even though it's true that from here on in he's going to be talking about very high levels, that's not expected of everybody, but many subjects that do apply to everybody in the actual subject are only discussed later on in the Sefer. And at that point, he's going to go back and tell you what the basic issue is, which everybody is responsible for, until he fine-tunes it to get to the high level. For instance, the whole issue of love of Hashem, Avas Hashem, Yiras Hashem, basic issues, everyone's chayv in Avas Hashem. You should love Hashem is talking to everybody. Everybody's supposed to love Hashem. Everybody's supposed to fear Hashem. Psukim say it again and again. But he didn't really explain and elaborate on those subjects till now. It's elaborated very much in detail later on. When he speaks about it, he's going to first talk about the basic idea that everyone is obligated in, and he's going to build on it higher and higher until he gets to the level of Chassidus of it. But you won't even understand the basic level if you don't read on further. You read the first 3 rungs over here, the first 3 of the series, Zehirus and Zerizus and Akiyos. It mentions Avas Hashem one time and passing Yiras Hashem one time. He doesn't really explain the issue. So it's very necessary to read the Sefer on in very many issues in order to be able to understand even the basic issue that everyone is also chayiv. That's one issue, one reason why it's necessary to read on the Sefer. Another reason might be that even if a person is not holding there yet, he's not yet, or he's not going to hold there, he's not going to be a chassid. But it's important to know what the reality of life is for those people who he looks up to. People, even if they're not Talmidei Chachamim, but they look up to Talmidei Chachamim, and they should be looking up to Talmidei Chachamim. Those are the people that they revere and they respect and they learn from. So it's important to get a guideline who are the great people. If people don't know what the picture of a chassid is, a great person, so then they might get a different picture of what a great person is, and they'll be following and asking advice and guidance of people that shouldn't be asked. It's important to get a picture of who are the great people. And when a person learns the subject coming up and he sees what is considered a Parush, and then a Tohor, and a Chassid, the Anav, Yerechei, the Kadosh, he gets more of a clarity. What is the framework that I could expect to see in somebody that I want to look up to? Who should I follow? I think there will be a second reason. There is also a third reason, that it would be important to continue, because people are not so exact that they don't start anything of the next level before they finish the first level. I mean, there is a lot of overlapping, that a person might have not completely become a Zohir, but he also is doing some Zerizus already. He might not be considered a complete Zoris, but he's still doing some things of Nikiyos, and as we go further, Precious. It's important not to jump too much. People sometimes they jump a rung, and that might be a dangerous thing when people don't realize what level they're holding, and they think that they're much more than they are. That's also a dangerous thing. It's very important that a person should know himself. But there is some overlapping. So it's important to know all the subjects in order to know what am I. A person should recognize himself, which level he's holding on, and what aspects of my life am I gleaning from a higher level, and to see if it's too much, too little, and he could adjust it that way. So those are three reasons that I think maybe the Mechaber, the author, might have meant when he said to read the whole Sefer again and again. But definitely the instructions for reading the Sefer are not to stop after Zhirus or not even after Nikios, but to keep on reading the Sefer until the cover, and then when we finish, to start again. That's the author's own instructions of how to make the most use out of the book.
I think also, if you read further, you understand why other people are Prussian. You understand why they're doing it.
Why they're doing it.
And that it's not just because they're crazy.
To understand the great, not to follow them like I was saying, but just to understand what the makeup of Am Yisrael is, the reality of this level and that level and that level, to understand the whole picture as we see it.
Because a lot of times we look at people who are Prussian and we just say that they're crazy.
In fact, now that you mentioned it, in the other edition of the Mesillas Shalom, which we found recently, about 30 years ago, they found another edition that the Mesillas Shalom, the Ramchal himself wrote as a dialogue between a chassid and a chacham. And the way he describes the scene, he writes it like a dialogue. And two friends, when they were young, they were friends. And then when they got older, so one went on to become a chacham. He went into more in-depth learning. He became a sage. And the other one became a chassid. A chassid, again, whenever we say chassid, we mean the chassid of the Mesillas Shalom, not the chassid that the terms used today. And the chacham was looked down at the chassidim, at the people who were being the pious people. And he said, what are they doing the whole day? Why are they not studying the way I'm studying? What are they gaining out of all this? And he was always bothered. What is my friend doing? And one day they met. I mean, this is what the Ramchal made up the whole story, but that they met and they greeted each other, and he asked if we could have a discussion. And that's how the Mesillas Shalom edition number 1 came out, that they have a discussion of what it's all about. It doesn't take long before the Hasidic wins over the Chacham, and he becomes the Talmud who's asking the questions the whole time to explain to it. And that's how the Mesillas Shalom is written in a dialogue form. Then he wrote it again. He wrote it in an essay form. It's a bit toned down. This edition is a bit toned down. It isn't as sharp as the first dialogue. When you have a dialogue, so it's more of a debate, and it gets sharper. There is what to gain from the first edition. We have it. It's put out Seder Vikuach, and sometimes, Ofek puts it out, Machon Ofek, and it says both Mesillas Shaloms in one. And you could compare the different editions, and you could learn from one on the other. Usually, you'll find that the Mesillas Shalom that we have, the essay form, also includes everything. But you have to look a bit deeper sometimes when it's a debate, so then it becomes sharp and differences of opinion, and then it becomes. But then you could tone it down, and the way he wrote it in the essay form. But you have to look between the lines to see what the point is being made. So that's true, as you said, that sometimes the people who don't understand what the Prushim are, and you could point out that sometimes there are Prushim that are really wrong. They're wrong in the way that they're being pious. Their piety is not called for, and it's wrong. And you have to have clarity in what's right and what's wrong, even though we're not holding there yet, but at least we have clarity what's right and what's wrong, to know this is considered a piety, this is not considered a piety. As long as you're going on the tracks of the exact law, so then it's much easier to know right and wrong. But once you go beyond the tracks, so you think you're doing better, it could be that you're doing worse. Just to mention one Chazal, that the Chazal say that Chassid Am Ha'aretz, Al Tadar B'Shchunasa. You shouldn't live in the same neighborhood as the Chassid Am Ha'aretz. An ignorant Chassid, an ignorant, pious man is dangerous. And Rabbi Shlomo Zilberman explained that the danger is not his ignorance, the danger is his piety. The piety of an ignorant man is dangerous. If you know that he's ignorant and he wouldn't try to be pious, okay, he knows his place. We know his place. He knows his place. But once the ignorant man starts becoming pious and he's not going according to the letter of the law, he thinks he's doing beyond the letter of the law. The beyond the letter of the law might be the wrong side of the law. He's going beyond the letter of the law. He's doing worse. And Chazal are very scared of a pious, ignorant man. As long as a person is ignorant, he should know his place and try to keep to the letter of the law, not to go beyond the letter of the law. But we'll see more as we go on. But that's a very nice point. Another reason why it's important to get a picture of the whole Seder until the end of the Seder. So again, he says that this issue of abstinence is the beginning of Chasidus. Just as we had the first two attributes the Sefer explained about Zehirus, carefulness, watchfulness, and the second one being alacrity, that the first one was about Someira, turning away from evil, staying away from the bad, Like the word Zohar means to be careful, means to stay away, careful from getting into trouble, from doing Averis. And then Zrizos, alacrity, meant doing the good. It was on the positive, on the say tov, on doing good. Over there, it wasn't just to do good, but it was to do it without procrastination. But the issue of Zehirus and Zrizos was Somrei Rava say tov. This was about negative commandments. This was about being careful about positive commandments. So too, he's introducing a precious is the Somrei Ra of Chasidus. That Chasidus, precious, abstinence is going to be staying away from evil, but not evil mamish. Well, as we said, that it's already talking about beyond the letter of the law. So he's doing more. He's staying away from something which is permissible, but it's a Somrei Ra. It's staying away. It's in the negative. And then Chasidus, as we get up to Chasidus, we're going to see that it's going to be on a positive level. It's going to be a say tov. So we introduced, just to keep on recapping, that Precious is the beginning of Chasidus. It's a new series that we're starting now. What's necessary to be a Chassid, and it's the beginning of Chasidus. The beginning of Chasidus is going to be on a Somrei Ra level. It's going to be on the level of staying away from evil, and eventually we'll get to the positive aspect of Asay Tov, which is going to be Chasidus. These next three is one series: Precious, Tara, and Chasidus. Precious and Tara go together. As we go on to Tara, we'll see what Tara means purity, just to get the translations. Precious, abstinence; Tara, purity. He's going to say purity means purity of motivations, not to have ulterior motivations. That's also going to be in a kind of a Somrei Ra, staying away from evil. He's doing the right thing, but he has the wrong motivation for it. And Chasidus is piety, which he says is also going to be beyond the letter of the law, but it's going to be in a positive act, doing something positive. So precious is the abstinence of Chasidus. It's refraining from something. In general, to just introduce the issue of precious, it means what Chazal say, that a person should sanctify himself in that which is permissible. Even though it's permissible, he's staying away. That's the definition of the word precious. The word precious, by definition, means to be poresh, to abstain. To abstain and distance oneself from something. So the question is, why is he staying away? Why stay away? It's permissible. What's the problem? Hashem didn't say so, so why are you abstaining? So he tells us right away what the reason for precious might be. This is one line that he's going to elaborate the rest of the parak to explain what it is. And he says that precious means that a person stays away from something permissible in order, with the intention of not, by chance, coming in contact with the Issa. Means so far the Mesillas doesn't find any legitimacy in staying away from something permissible per se, for itself. Someone's going to say, I want to stay away from something permissible. You have to ask him why. What's the purpose? Why do you want to stay away from something that's permissible? Hashem said it's mutter. Why? What's the purpose of staying away? So he's telling us the reason is because it might bring me to do the Issa. He's scared of getting too close to this. It's like someone's on the sidewalk and you're allowed to go till the curb. So the children go till the curb. But the parents hold them back. Take 2 steps back because it's too close. So the child asks his parents, what's the problem? The car's not allowed to go on the sidewalk. But there's parents who have experience, so they say that it's too close, it's too dangerous, something might happen. You might trip, someone might push you, car might go a little bit too close to the curb. So take the precaution of taking a step back. That's mamash a case of precious. That person is refraining from something permissible with the chashash for the purpose that he might go into the prohibited zone. Everyone's going to agree that it's permitted to go till the end of the curb. So anybody that takes a step back, he doesn't go till the end, he's doing some kind of a precious. He's doing some kind of a abstinence. He's taking a precaution and answering on himself something which is permissible. They shouldn't come to the Isser itself. As we said, the Isser when the Mesillas Rabbi says the word Isser, it doesn't only mean negative commandment, it also means bad midah. So he's going to talk about that also. There's the bad midah itself that we've discussed until now, and a person is already cleansed from all the bad midah. So at this point, he's a naki, so he doesn't have any bad character trait. But there's going to be an issue, even in taking a step back further, even in the character trait, in order that he shouldn't come to the bad midah. So this is the whole issue of precious, and the logic, the rationale behind it is that he shouldn't come to do the Isser. At this point, if there would be no chash of getting into the Isser, we'd say there's no reason to be poresh. There's no reason to abstain if it's not for a chash. Someone's going to take 10 steps back from the sidewalk. So we tell him, this doesn't make any sense. Why are you going so far back? There's no chash that you'll fall into the street. So that would be a precious, which wouldn't make sense. So too, in our Nimshal over here, we're going to talk about it, there's going to be a issue of how much and when it's proper to abstain and when not. So at this point, he seems to be telling us that if there is something that a person knows that is permissible, but he knows that if he goes till the permissible line, he's definitely, or it's very close that he's going to fall, then even before a precious, also a person has to stay away. It means there are some things that are permissible that even a person who's before the stage, he's in the Nakiya stage, he also is going to stay away. A person knows that if he goes to a certain place, most likely he's going to fall in. Then even before a precious, also he'd have to stay away because he knows he's going to fall in. The whole issue of precious is when he's backing away, even though it's not so definite that he's going to fall in. But if he knows personally, if he goes to this place, he goes to the street, he hangs around with his friend, he knows what's going to happen. That's not a question of precious. That's not. We have to go. This is an example of.
That's an example of anyone who knows that he's nichshal in an avera. So he's even the Rambam says you shouldn't put yourself in a position where if you know that you're going to do the avera again, so you shouldn't go put yourself back in that position where. So that's also falls under the same category.
So he says it wouldn't be precious. That wouldn't
it's
be
not precious anymore.
That's before precious.
Yeah.
That's what
That's
he's
before
saying.
Nikias.
Even in the Kiyas you need that. If a person knows he's going to do that, if he knows that, even though he says, right, it's permissible. Yes, but don't fool yourself. You know that if you're going to do this permissible thing, you know that you're going to fall in. Someone's going to take a drink, and he knows that the drink is going to bring him to do the thing after the drink, so then don't take the drink. It's not precious not to take the drink. He knows that it would bring him into a bad situation. So that's not precious. Anything, so we're learning, this is an example of learning something over here.
It's also more of a Zahira thing.
Yes, 100%. That a person has to, in his being careful, he has to be careful not only not to do the Avera, anything which brings him to do the Avera. And if he knows that something brings him to do the Avera, he must stay away. So this is an example of something that we're opening up now a window that we have to go back. This is backtracking us to Zahiros and Nikios, that even in those levels also a person must stay away from something that he knows most probably is going to make him fall. The issue with precious is going to be that even though it's so far that it's not so obvious that he's going to fall, but he takes the precaution anyway. Anything he knows that could bear a cause of evil, even though it's not yet causing it, and surely it's not evil itself, still he should distance himself and abstain from it.
Does he provide any examples there?
Yes, he's going to be very long to say examples. And he's going to first, before he gets to examples, he's going to first ask a question, and he says, he's asking himself to prove this point that it's in place. He's going to ask about 5 questions that are going to challenge the whole idea of precious. Maybe it's not. Maybe the whole idea of precious maybe is off. Maybe it's not in place for Am Yisrael to be Poresh. And he's going to bring questions from Chazal and also from Svara to challenge the whole idea. Maybe it's not in place. Hashem says what's muster, it says what's aser. Don't try to be firmer than God. That's going to be the issue he's going to ask now. And so he first introduces that there are 3 things we have to realize. There's the Isser itself, I call it Isser Daraisa, the thing that the Torah said. Then you have the Rabbanan. Rabbanan, the sages came and they made a fence around the Torah, and they themselves call it a precious. They told people to stay away. And then there's going to be the issue that we're introducing now, that there's individual precious, that a person himself should abstain on his own from things on a personal level. And then he's going to ask, where does it come from? Who invented this idea of being Poresh? So he says, Vizbonein, V'tira, contemplate and see, Sheyesh kan shalosh madregas. There are 3 levels over here. First of all, Yesh Yisur Matzmon, there's the actual prohibition, which means the Torah law. Hashem says something is prohibited. And then the second thing is, Yesh Yagosei, and there's the fence. The fence means, Hey Magzeras HaMishmor Shegoz Chazal, I'll call Yisrael. These are the decrees and precautions that Chazal decreed upon all Am Yisrael, what he called it Rabbanan. That Rabbanan, the rabbis, they made a precaution around the deraisa. They built a fence around the deraisa so that everyone should stay clear. Don't go to the curb. Don't get too close. And now there are these precautions that is incumbent upon each parush, each person who's a parush, a person who abstains is called a parush, that he should kones b'soch shelo. Kones b'soch shelo, he's taking this term from Chazal when a person owns a property and he doesn't build his fence until the border of his property, but he moves in on his own property. That's called kones b'soch shelo. We had this today in the Sachs Avodah Zarah. It talked about a person who he had an adjacent wall with Avodah Zarah, and now that it fell down, he's not allowed to build it up again because he's going to benefit the Avodah Zarah, who's going to benefit from his wall. So he has to be konos b'sof shelo. He has to enter and recede into his own property, his own territory, and leave a space that the Avodah Zarah shouldn't benefit from his wall. So that's the term called kones b'sof shelo. A person recedes into his own property. So here too, his own property means what's permissible. There's the line that the Torah said this is prohibited, this is permissible. So everything is permissible is considered my territory, and now I'm receding within my territory to make a precaution. So these are the three things the issues that are now on the table. One is the Issa D'Oraisa, the Torah law. One is the Issa D'Rabbanan, the rabbinic law that they made as a fence around the Torah law. And now he's asking people on their own, whoever is on that level, that they should make their own precaution and go a step further, in order that he should be very distant from the evil. And now he's going to ask kashas. Once he explained what the issue of precious is, and he said the reason for it, because might come to do an avera. So now he has a list of about 5 kashas to challenge the whole issue. Vim Tomar, like you say, Vim Tomar, kasha, Vim Tomar, you might ask, Minayin lanu lios mosifim v'holkim b'isurim. From where do we get it? Who says such a thing? What's the source to say such a thing that we should add on to the prohibitions? He brings the Yerushalmi. This is not in the Bible, but it's in the Yerushalmi by Nedorim. There's such a concept that a person can make a neder, he could accept upon himself a vow, and make something prohibited, which really the Torah permits. He could vow, make a neder. So there, the Yerushalmi says that even if the person fulfills the neder, it's also considered a chet. The pasuk is based on a pasuk that says a lashon over there, a term of chet, ashachata. And the Rishalmi says that even if he transgresses the vow, surely it's a chet. But even if he fulfills the vow, it's also considered a sin. Because the Rishalmi says it isn't enough what the Torah prohibited, you have to prohibit it more. That's considered a chet. So here the Rishalmi says that it's considered a chet to prohibit that which is permissible. So he's challenging the whole idea of precious. You're coming to prohibit things that are permissible. The Rishalmi says it's not proper. A person who makes the dharm on himself is not a good thing. We have to wait to the end of the parak to see the answer. There is such a thing as nedarim, but so far the Yerushalmi says that a neder, even if a person fulfills it, is not a proper thing to do. So that is challenging the whole idea of precious.
What under certain circumstances, right?
Right. The answer is going to be that it depends on circumstances. That's what he's going to say here. Also, he's going to differentiate between two kinds of precious. Sometimes he's going to say that it's acceptable and good and praiseworthy. Sometimes it's going to be looked down upon. But we have to figure out when is it good, when is it bad. That's going to be the question. So far he brings one question, who says mechatesi, who says that such a thing is precious. Second of all, Chazal say that it's not complimented. The thing about nedarim, that it says that it's better not to make a neder. The third thing he says, the third point is going to be that if Chazal, they went to the trouble already of making precautions. And they didn't make this precaution about this particular thing. They already made precautions. So they're smarter than we are. And they knew what to prohibit and make a decree and a precaution, and what they didn't. So why are you being smarter than Chazal? Chazal already went to the trouble. They did the job already. They saw in their wisdom what's necessary to prohibit and make a precaution, and they did it already. And what they did, whatever they left to be permissible, is because they saw that must be that they saw that it was not dangerous, and they left it to be permissible. So why should we invent gzeros, decrees that they didn't see necessary? How come we're being firmer than the Chazal? That the Chazal did it, he's not asking. Chazal, the Chachamim that they made a decree, is the source for that the Torah says, we'll see soon, that the Torah itself said that there's room to make decrees. But now he's asking that the Rabbanan already took the job. They did it. So how come we're doing more than them? How could a person on his own make a decree that Chazal didn't do? He should learn from the fact that they didn't do it, that it's not in place. Kasha number 4. Not all the Sfarim or people would agree to the kasha. Some people might say it's not a kasha. But the Mesillas seems to think that it's a kasha, which is nice to see. V'od she'en gvul adavar hazeh. If a person is going to always make precautions, so there's no boundary, there's no limit, and a person is going to become desolate and afflicted and not enjoying the world at all. That's a kasha. Mesillas Shalom's kasha. How could it be that a person is not going to enjoy life? Many people might say, so don't enjoy life. But Mesillas Shalom seems that it's a kasha to him, that it's not reasonable, it's not rational that a person should live life and not enjoy. And that's a kasha on its own. This kasha holds on itself. If a person is going to constantly make gedorim, and he's always going to be asering and making fences and say might come to an avera, might come to an avera, might come to an avera, he's not going to be enjoying life. Can't be. I can see many people that would say, so I won't enjoy life. But the Mesillas, the Ramchal seems to think that it is a kasha.
Isn't that a Torah obligation to enjoy life?
He's going to prove it from Chazal also that you are supposed to enjoy life, and that's why he says that cannot be. It means he's challenging the whole idea of precious. I'm agreeing. I'm saying that the Mesillas Shalom says that this is a kasha, that it wouldn't
the Torah
be.
itself says, why did all the clothes come upon you? Because you didn't serve the Rebbeinu Shalom b'simcha.
But yeah,
So how are you supposed to be b'simcha if you're putting yourself in a matzav where you're not happy?
Right. Someone might argue and say, no, the person's going to be happy because he's serving Hashem. Maybe he'll be happy because he's serving Hashem. Hashem, you didn't serve Hashem with happiness. But now we're talking about enjoying life. And he says that a person is going to always make restrictions on himself because he's scared he's going to come to sin. So he's not going to enjoy life. How could that be?
Paranoid.
So that's going to be the question. We're going to talk about what's called paranoid and what's called a reasonable precious, which is going to be praiseworthy. Precious is going to be a good thing. So that's the question. What's going to be where do we make the gvul? Means the kash is only based on if there's no limit. There's no limitation. So always the person is going to say, maybe it'll bring me to an nisa. So then he's not going to be enjoying life at all. If he'll be able to figure out what's the gvul, what's the demarcation, what's the limit, then the kash will fall off. Well, no, this is in place, this is not in place, and the Porush is going to be a very happy person. At the end of the story, just to give a little asterisk over here, at the end, the Porush is going to be a very happy person. If he's not happy, we'll tell him, this is not for you. It's only for happy people.
But I don't actually understand how a person can enjoy life and then because of the precious they don't enjoy life. It seems like if before they even get there they don't enjoy life, then the precious is like just adds to it. But it's difficult to understand how someone can enjoy life and then just because of the precious they don't enjoy life.
So it's based on what he says. Ain't gvula. The kasha is based on if there's no limit. If you're not going to tell me a limit, a boundary of what precious is the right precious, and then ad kan, this is how much you're supposed to make a precaution. So then the kasha is activated. Then there's no limit, so he's not going to enjoy life at all. But as you say, that if there would be a limit, we know the rule of the thumb, we'd be able to get some kind of a cloud of what yes and what not. Then it's not going to disturb his enjoyment. It's true.
Discussion is a bit abstract. Are we talking about eating cheesecake?
That's the question. The question will be cheesecake. It might even be about eating a second piece of bread. It's not. Cheesecake is surely going to be part of the question. But the question is. But after we finish his rule, we'll see what is going to be considered precious. What's considered abstinence? We didn't get the rule yet. Cheesecake is a good example, and any enjoyment is going to be questionable. And he's putting everything on the table. And if we're saying that every enjoyment is possible to get you closer to an avera, which is going to be his theory, the question is going to be, so then I'm not going to have anything to enjoy. How is it possible to stop all enjoyment? At this point, you're right that it's a bit theoretical till we get some concrete rules. But he's just challenging the whole idea with these kashas. One more kasha, he says, this is going to...
If I don't have cheesecake, I'm not enjoying the cheesecake, but life is enjoyable.
Because you enjoy other things about life. Could be,
well,
that's
you can
right.
put the cheesecake on the table and enjoy looking at the cheesecake. You don't have to necessarily eat it. I think you can enjoy the fact that you're not gaining weight.
The truth is that after we're finished, we're going to see that this is only for people that are going to continue being happy or even be happier because of the precious. But we're not going to ask anybody not to be happy. But he makes this as a kasha. How is it possible to do this whole idea of precious, abstaining from things which are permissible without any rule, guideline of what yes and what not? If so, a person is going to be afflicting himself and he's not going to be enjoying life at all. As you do see, just to point out, as you're going to say later on, that there are goyim in the Gentile world, that they have the idea of abstaining as a goal, and they don't enjoy life. They don't connect to life. So he's going to be referring to them, that people that don't have the right attitude to what the right abstinence is, they really don't enjoy life. And he's going to say why that's off limits.
It turns out they don't really abstain anyway.
That's true. But we're talking even on a theoretical basis. One more kasha, v'chazal amru, this is really a chiddush to people. She'azid adam litain din lefnei hamakam al kol ma shero einav v'lo rotza lachol mimenu. There's also Yesharim in Kedushin, the last thing in the Yesharim in Kedushin, that it says the person is going to have to give judgment. He's going to have to answer to Hashem's question on anything that his eyes saw and he didn't want to partake of it. If it was permissible and he was able, Hashem's going to ask him, why didn't you eat it? That's a Rishalmi. Anybody heard of this Rishalmi? Hashem is going to, part of the din, everyone's scared of the din is going to be that you saw a fruit and you didn't eat it. Why didn't you eat it?
Didn't have enough from it.
You didn't enjoy it. You didn't eat it. You didn't eat it.
With our Shabbat guests who don't eat salmon.
So this is Yerushalmi. Over there, the Rishon Shalom doesn't quote it, but it says over there that Rabbi Lezer had a kupat chisachon, he had a savings account. He used to save up money in order to be able to buy each new food once a year. He was careful that he should eat from each type of food once a year at least. And he saved up money. And it says that Hashem is going to ask, why didn't you? I once experienced something which always reminds me of this issue. I once visited an old woman, a Rebbetzin, old in Yesharim over here. I was living here yet. We came to visit once, and I was taken to old Almana, and we were a few people together, and she served some fruit. She served fruit to the guests.
She served what?
She served some fruit. And one person didn't take. And she said, take. And he again declined. And she said, take. And he again declined. She said, you're a very big mechutzah. You have a lot of chutzpah. That means that if somebody's offering you to eat, there's a limit how much you're supposed to decline. And the Gemara says that siruv is a little bit is good, probably like salt. A little bit is good, too much is no good. And this is one of the examples. Somebody comes, she's honoring you. The Baal Bayis is honoring you. It's not right to decline so much. So I think that it will be a good mashal if everybody agrees to the mashal. If you want to argue with the Rebbetzin, so we can talk about it. But she felt that it was not proper, that somebody didn't have derech eretz, that the Baal Bayis is offering him a dessert, and he's declining the whole time. If she wouldn't,
I'm working in a place now where the Baal Bayis is like a Baal Chesed you've never seen. I mean, every single day, talking about 15 workers, most of them Arabs, and she brings meals for them every single day. And now they're not there, and I'm just finishing up. So this morning I'm there, and she goes, I'm making breakfast for my husband, you're going to sit and eat. I go, no, I'm really not hungry, but I'll have a cup of coffee. Meanwhile, she set a plate, she put out cups, she put out silverware, and she put food on the plate. It's like, what are you supposed to do? Say, no, she goes, I prepared the food for you, please sit and eat.
so if you wouldn't,
If I
it
wouldn't,
wouldn't be proper.
It wouldn't have been
It wouldn't
proper.
be
She
proper.
would have hurt her feelings.
So this is the issue that Hashem, when He serves us in this world with all these delicacies, and a person is going to abstain, so it's not proper. Hashem is serving you dessert, and you're abstaining. So the Yishalmi says that it's not proper. So all these examples, either the example that I experienced, that you experienced, or that everybody agrees that would be the right thing, when you're being served something, so it's not proper to decline. So the Yishalmi says that applies to Hashem. Hashem is serving us. We're not supposed to decline. We're supposed to partake of Hashem's delicacies that He's giving you.
Depends how much you put on your plate.
That's going to be part of the question, part of the answer.
But you have to do it with measure.
That's going to be the answer. The answer is going to be measure. Measure, and also we'll see, He's going to give us a clear delineate what is proper and what is not. But at first He's challenging the whole idea with all these kashas that maybe it's not proper to abstain. He brings this as a pasuk to support this idea of Chazal. Over there, Chazal don't say this. It seems the Ramchal is saying it is on his own. I don't think Chazal say this. That all that my eyes asked, I didn't hold back from them. So there's such a thing that when you see something, you're supposed to see Hashem is serving me something. That's the kasha. Before he explains what the answer is, he's going to first counter it with other proofs. Means you're bringing me these list of proofs to say that precious is not in place. Let me show you proofs from Chazal that it is in place. And then we'll have to figure out what the answer is. But first, don't just throw all of these statements at me. I have statements to counter the fact and to show that something precious is something which is praiseworthy. Abstinence is definitely necessary. There's you Allah Chazal, and we see Chazal also do tell us to do it. We are instructed by Chazal to abstain. And he brings a few Chazal. Hum Hashamu Kedoshim to you, Prushim to you. In Parshas Kedoshim it says Kedoshim to you, Lelo Kechem, you should be holy. And over there Chazal, it's not a pasuk, but Chazal explained this pasuk. Kedoshim to you means Prushim to you. You should be. What's the word for a person who abstains? Is there what?
Abstain. Abstain.
Abstinence.
Abstinence. What's the person called? What is the person who abstains? What is he called?
Abstainer.
Okay, that's something must be a better English word. We'll get it next time. So Prushim to you.
Elio would
Yes,
find it.
that's true. So Prushim to you. So Kedoshim to you. Chazal say on this pasuk, you should be Prushim. You should abstain. So Chazal do say there is room for abstaining. Again, abstaining means that you stay back from something which is permitted, to abstain from a permitted thing. So Chazal say, pushim to you. And it's talking about the Olam Yisrael. O Damru, Kal Yosher B'Tainis Nikra Kodosh, Kal V'chomer Min Nazir. Chazal say if somebody accepts upon himself a fast day, a voluntary fast day, not the one that Chazal instituted. He makes a fast day for himself. So he's considered he's called a holy man, Kadosh. Kal V'chomer from a Nazir. A Nazir abstains from wine, and the Torah calls him a Kadosh. So Kal V'chomer, somebody abstains from all food, for a limited time, of course, for a day, so he's surely called a Kadosh. So Chazal do praise a person who's abstaining from thing which is, even though it's permissible. And another Chazal, O Damru, Tzadik Ochel L'Sov B'Nafsho, Zechizkel Melech Yehuda, Shal Yimalam L'Al Shulchanu, Shtei Likim Shal Yoav, Litim Shal Bosa B'Chol Yom, V'Al Yisrael Malikim V'Omrim Zeh Melech. Chazal say on the pasuk that the righteous man eats to satisfy himself. That's referring to Chizkiyo. Chizkiyo was the king, and the king surely was able to eat a royal table, a royal feast, but on his table they only had 2 measures of vegetables and a measure of meat. Very simple meal for a king. And the Chazal and the people were surprised. They said, "This is a king. The king. This is the royal feast." So you see that Chizkiyahu abstained on his level. That's considered abstaining to eat a simple meal.
That's why he lived such a long life.
O Daru, Rabbeinu Hakadosh, Shuvashas Misas Zakav Eses Bosav Amar Golav Yidu Lefanecha Shalon Nesi Miron Lamazeh Afilu Be'Aspektana Shali. Rabbi Danasi says when he died, he lifted up his 10 fingers and he said to Hashem that it's revealed before you that I didn't benefit from this world, even my small finger, or my pinky. That means that he's saying that he didn't benefit from the world. He was able to, and he didn't. So again, he abstained from that which is permissible. And Chazal are praising it. O Damru, another Chazal, Ashad Mispala al Devi Torah Shekonsu B'Sof Meyav, Yispala al Achilu Shtiyah Shaloi Konsu B'Sof Meyav. Before a person davens that Torah should be absorbed within him, he should first pray that food and drink should not be absorbed within him. That he should first pray that food and drink should not be absorbed. If there's food and drink absorbed in him, it means that he's partaking too much of food and drink. There's no room for the Torah. Like he even calls it in his intestines. If a person wants Torah, should be in his intestines, but the food and drink is there. First daven that it shouldn't be filled up with food and drink, then you can daven that the Torah should come in. So there's no issue to food and drink. We're not talking about prohibited foods. We're talking about permissible foods. And it says that the permissible foods, they are interfering with Torah coming in. So it is a praiseworthy thing to stay away from some kind of permissible foods. So he brings about 5 statements of Chazal that do praise abstinence. Have you found the word?
Ascetic.
Ascetic.
But I've never heard of
Ascetic.
An ascetic. That's a person.
A-S-C-E-T-I-C.
That's a person who's a Polish is called ascetic. So kadoshim to you, prushim to you should be ascetics. So that's the kasha. That here, not yet. We're still a Polish, only the beginning. So here Chazal are saying all of these statements do teach that there is a necessity for abstinence and obligation for, again, we're not going to say obligation for everybody, but there is such a positive thing called abstinence. So how are we going to reconcile these different statements? Some places we saw Chazal say that they're against abstinence, and some places we see that they're for abstinence.
Well, even in certain mitzvahs, says like chametz, right? It's a mitzvah to refrain, to stay away.
So no one's questioning that. Whenever the Torah says it's prohibited, that's not a question. That's not considered abstinence.
We see that it's within the foundation of the Torah and the mitzvahs is worked in an idea of abstinence.
But one would argue that over there the issue isn't, if someone's going to stay away from poison, we're not going to say that he's abstaining. You stay away from poison because it's poison and it's harmful. So the mitzvahs that Hashem said, don't eat chametz, don't eat treif, don't eat chazir, over there it's not abstinence. This thing is poison. So the issue of abstinence only comes when it's something permissible. That whatever is aser is ready till nikiyos, that's already poison, and people have learned to ready to stay away from that. And now we're talking about somebody that even though Torah says it's permissible, it's true that a person does learn self-restraint. It's very famous nowadays, and Bali Tshuva are very impressed with that point that from Jews, even if they're not Prushim, they learn how to control themselves, they learn constraint. Famous story, maybe there are many stories, but I heard a story of somebody that was in a doctor's office with their children, and one of the other patients that were waiting their turn in the waiting room offered a candy to one of the children over there. And the child took the candy, went to his mother, and asked if it had a hechsher. And the mother said no. And he went back to the man and said, I'm sorry, I can't take it. And the man was so overwhelmed that a child, a 5-year-old, has such self-constraint, the candy, of course he wants a candy. Where do you find children asking their mother if they can eat the candy because it's not certified? He asked what it's all about, and he said that you have to eat kosher. The child said we eat kosher, and this is not kosher. So he was so overwhelmed that I think the story goes that he was Jewish, but he wasn't observant. He became observant after that. He said, if a child 5-year-old can have more constraint than I have, I couldn't do that. So he saw that. So that's true. That there's a built-in system that we do learn self-restraint from the mitzvahs, but it's still not an issue of abstinence. It's true that it's built in that a person learns self-control. But here we're talking that a person with his self-control is going to even abstain from things that are permissible. And that's where he's questioning, is that in place or not? Is it something that's praiseworthy or something that's to be looked down upon? So he brought Stifin Mamorim to both directions, and now he has to reconcile them. That we have to reconcile the two statements. When is it in place? When is it not in place? So he says right away there are many differences that we have to understand, that there's some abstinence which is good, we're commanded, it's a positive thing, and there's some that we should stay away, far away. We should stay away from some kind of abstinence. We should distance ourselves and not stumble in some kinds of abstinence. Shlomo says, don't be too righteous. What does it mean to be? Of course, should be righteous. Who says don't be too righteous? That sometimes going beyond the letter of the law sometimes is dangerous. And he's saying another mama where it says don't be too frum, so to speak. So that's the question now. What is the guideline to know what kind of abstinence is praiseworthy and which kind of abstinence is derogatory? So first, it's going to be very elaborate to explain the good precious. We're not going to be able to do the whole issue tonight. We'll have to continue next week again. But tonight we'll at least try to get to the issue of good precious, and he's going to bring examples. He's going to bring examples of the necessity of precious. We're not yet going to have a guideline. If everyone would like, I could say the guideline, but it's a shame to hear it from me. If you could hear it from him, he says it much better. But first he's going to go in his order, that he says what the good precious is and why it's necessary. First of all, if we have a list of premises, the first one is that the issues of the world are tests. We're in a world that's a test for a man. Man, it's not easy. Hashem put us in a place which is a materialistic world, and that causes us tests. We have a lure towards the materialistic physical world, and that's a test. And the beginning of the Sefer, he said every situation man is put into is a test. If he's wealthy, if he's poor, if he's tranquil, if he's in suffering, everything is a test. And we also know that man has a weak makeup. That a person has a affinity for evil. Sometimes he will get close. It's hard for him to stay away from evil. If a person will be able to be strong and till here, yes, till here, not, maybe there's also no room for precious. But based on these different premises, first of all, the world is a place of tests. It means that there is a lure for man, and man is weak, which means that he's not always going to be able to go according exactly to the letter of the law. If these premises are true, that worldly enjoyments are difficult for man to stay away from, and they could lead to Avera, means every Avera is always going to be encased in some kind of a desire for man. If it wouldn't be a desire for man to do an Avera, there wouldn't be any test. The whole reason why it's a test is because the Isser is encased in some kind of a desire. If tray for food wouldn't be desirable, there wouldn't be any test. In order there should be a test, it has to be that there is a lure for the tray for food, or any kind of a Avera. Every Avera has some kind of a benefit that a person seemingly would want. So that's room for a test. So he comes up with this formula. There's no worldly pleasure that doesn't have in its tail end some kind of a sin. It means if you take any enjoyment and take it to the end of the road, you'll come to an Avera. There's no worldly pleasure that doesn't have an Avera at its tail end. It's true that the enjoyment itself is not an Avera, but if you take that enjoyment to its end, without limitation, it'll bring you to the Avera. So a person knowing that, and knowing that he's weak, and he gets involved in the enjoyment, and he gets another step, he would be choshesh that he might come to do the Avera. And now he goes on to say about 5 mishalim, 5 examples of worldly pleasures that have Avera, that the tail end of it would be an Avera. It doesn't mean
an appeal.
Have an appeal. Every Avera has an appeal, and the appeal, but the point is not just to say that the Avera has an appeal, because then it's only
But
the
it's the
Avera.
appeal that will eventually bring you to the Avera.
Right. Every Avera is encased in an appeal that has a permissible end to it, but on the other end is going to be an Avera. So first he talks about food and drink. The issue of eating and drinking is a permissible issue. But if you take that to its fullest extent, you're going to end up with many Averas. So he doesn't mention tray for food. That's not in his list. He's not going to even say that. I would have said that. That if you take all of the enjoyment of food, so at the end there are many Averas that are included in food. There's a whole list of macholas asuros, all kinds of prohibited food. But it doesn't even go so far. He says, derech Moshe, la'machal v'mishteh, food and drink. Kishaniku mikol yisuri achila, he named it armhim. If they're cleansed of any prohibition or that you're not allowed to eat, so they're permissible. But there's a big danger in eating. Amnam, milo yakores, Moshe chachro prikasol. A person who fills up his stomach, he feels fully satisfied, so that causes a person to throw off the yoke. He doesn't feel responsibility. He feels a certain freedom. Oversatisfied in a way that he feels no yoke. He takes off responsibility. He feels like when a person is hungry, he feels more humble. When a person is full, he feels like he owns the world, even though it doesn't have anything to do with each other. He had a good meal, but that's the nature of man. That the meal that he brings the Gemara, it doesn't mean the Gemara, but it's a Gemara in Brachas that says Malik Reise Zani Bishi. It's an expression of man that they say when a person has a full stomach, all bad things come from that. So he says that the first thing is prikasol, that a person throws off his yoke of responsibility. Second of all, Mishnah Yayin, Moshe Chachrov Aznus Shamin and Ron. When a person goes into a drinking banquet, that's Pashit, that drinking alcohol, under the influence of alcohol, all kind of adultery and other kinds of bad issues. Kolshkein should be also the Margalasmo Lisboa Mechilu Shtia. This is if a person does the fact of even a one-time thing also, one-time filling up or drinking, guzzling, all these things would be an issue even on a one-time basis. But if a person makes this his habit, that he always indulges in food and drink, if he's not able to live up to a standard, he's very pained by it. So then he has to go into the rat race of being able to support his diet. Because he knows when a person goes into the lane, his life, his life course goes to be one of indulgence. So then he's on a different route. He's not on the route of Torah, Voda, and Tefillah, but he's just into his business. But the business, like I said before, that it brings him in a never-ending pursuit of luxuries. So the issue of food and drink, if he takes it to its end, it causes him all kinds of averas. He's going to have to support his indulgence, and that makes him a whole different lifestyle. His Torah, Tefillah, and Avodas Hashem is not on his menu. He would have been part from all this if wouldn't have gone on this route. Chazal say this about a Ben Sora Mora, the son who, the wayward son, as they translate it, that the only Avera that he did is that he stole. He did steal already, and he ate meat and wine. And that, the Torah says that is a lost case. Because Hashem already knows what's going to be at the end of, if a boy at such a young age is able to indulge so much, we know what's going to happen. That means that the food and drink, his need for food and drink is going to lead him to do terrible averis at the end. And one more case he brings about this, that the person who sees a sota, a woman who was in seclusion with a man, after she was warned by her husband not to, and she has to drink the mayim amorim in order to prove her innocence. Over there it says, when a person sees that, she sees what a woman came to because of her indulgence, so he's going to learn on himself to become a poresh, to abstain from wine. This is where Chazal say that it says the two parashas next together. It says Nazir and Sota next to each other. What's the connection between the two parashas? So Chazal say when a person sees what happened to a Sota, he's going to learn to stay away from wine because he sees that's what wine brings. So here, yes?
It seems to me that these are people who are unbridled, it's not the average person. I mean, people have a certain amount of self-restraint.
True,
And
true.
This seems to be taking it over the fence.
So the question is, where's going to be the line? He's going to have to define for us what the line of the parish is. How much is it proper to abstain? How much is it not proper to abstain? He's saying all these cases, they surely went too far. But it's like cigarette smoking. When a person starts in the beginning, he doesn't realize where it's going to take him. And he says, I'm going to stop. That's I want to do now. I'm 15 years old, whatever it is, and my friends are doing it. I want to do it now, but I'm surely going to stop. But you ask all of the 30-year-olds, the 40 years old, how come they didn't stop? Yeah, I wasn't able to stop anymore. So all the people who are deeply involved, it all started from a small beginning. So the question is, where are we supposed to stop?
A lot of Dafka, I agree. I'm sorry to disagree with you, but you look at societies today, like for instance, take America. You look at the average person in that society. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner are always meals. We're talking about a full meal for breakfast, full meal for lunch, a full meal for dinner. That's something that a society becomes used to, and you look at what they're eating in every single meal. It's like pretty.
But the question will be: does it bring them to these things that he says? If
But
you
it's
say
not
that
a
it
matter
does,
of bringing to Avera there. It's
Not Avera,
already
the
what
Avera
the
that he
society's
mentioned.
used to indulging. They're indulging in foods that are they're making themselves meet the needs of every person. The average food bill is like probably 3 times, 4 times more than the average food bill of someone who doesn't have that
But is
lifestyle.
three good meals a day, is that bad? Is it?
so the question
What's
is
a good
indulging.
meal?
If it's indulging, the point will be: do you see that these people they're going on this life course that he describes over here? In the beginning, it says precasol, that a person who indulges in food, so he takes off responsibility. He feels that he's in charge, and he doesn't feel the humility and humbleness to Hashem. And afterwards, wine also. Wine has its effects that everybody knows that alcoholic effects. Afterwards, he talks about that a person who gets into this lifestyle, so then he's going to be meshubad. He's going to be subjected to the responsibilities of supporting such a lifestyle. We could also broaden this idea. It's not just the food and the drink. It has to go together with everything that's the background
Coffee,
for this.
coffee shops.
So it's true that the expenses of supporting such a lifestyle become much different, a different standard of living. So this standard of living that he's calling machal mishti, he's calling it food and drink, this is causing a person to be on a different wavelength than a person who's not on that track. But it's true, he didn't give us yet the guideline to say where's the demarcation, where's what yes and what not. He's just showing us that there is the tail end. If you take it to its extreme, it's going to have a bad effect. So now you want to know, if so where's the line to say yes and what not? But first he wants to show you that if you take it to its extreme, it is going to cause evil. And the last thing, just to end off this point about sota, here Chazal themselves gave away the solution. The solution is going to be precious abstinence, because they say, Yazir Asma Min Hayayin. The person who sees the sota, he learns the lesson from her, and he stays away from the wine. He doesn't say, I'll drink the wine, but I won't go as far as she does. I'm not going to even start up with the wine already. This is a great strategy for a person to save himself from his Yetzer Hara. Once he's already holding by the Avera, then it's too hard to hold back. Then he can't control himself anymore. Once he's already holding by the Avera already. So what's the Eitzah? Okay. When he's still far away, the strategy is to keep far away. Then the Yetzer Hara has no shlita over him. If he goes as far as the Yetzer Hara takes him, and then he's lost. Then he can't fight the Yetzer Hara anymore. He's too close already. So the Eitzah is to stay far away, which is the issue of precious, that a person holds back. He makes a precaution. He curbs himself, even on the permissible, in order not to get too close. But we're still holding in the middle of the issue. We didn't finish the issue yet, and we have to find out what's going to be the demarcation. So Bez Hashem, next week or maybe the following week, we'll see when we get back to it. That should go.